Hello and welcome to this Open Farm Sunday Bite-Size webinar. I'm Annabelle Shackleton, I'm Leaf's Open Farm Sunday Manager, and I'm going to be hosting this webinar here today.
The webinar topic is Organisation and Planning for an Open Farm Sunday event on the 11th of June, Farmers' Annual Open Day managed by Leaf, linking environment and farming. Our presenters today are Alastair Hunter-Blair in Herefordshire, Hugh Richardson in Northumberland, Joe North down in the South East, and myself, Annabelle Shackleton. Good organisation and planning are key ingredients to a successful and enjoyable Open Farm Sunday event, whether it's a farm walk for a small group or a large open event. And we're delighted that Alastair Hunter-Blair of Weir Farm in Herefordshire has agreed to share his experiences of organising and planning his first Open Farm Sunday event. Ali was one of Channel 4's first-time farmers and a self-confessed custard cream addict. So, over to you, Ali.
Thank you, Annabelle. My name's Alastair Blair, and we have a 500-acre arable and sheep farm in Weir, Herefordshire, which we rent from the Duchy of Cornwall. We crop oilseed rape, wheat, spring malting barley, peas, and sugar beets, as well as having a flock of easy care breeding ewes, which we lamb outside in April. We did our first Open Farm Sunday in 2015. I'd always wanted to host one, but I always felt that being a predominantly arable farm, we wouldn't have much of interest to show in the first week of June. This is something I now know to be totally incorrect. We started planning the event in the spring with help from my parents and long-suffering partner. I knew I wanted to base it around the top yard as it gave us good access to parking as well as amenities like water and electricity. I found that my gut instinct tended to be correct when laying things out. With the nature trail, we're very lucky that the farm is ring-fenced, so it was very easy to create two circular routes of differing lengths. What I did have on my phone was an Open Farm Sunday note, and every time I thought of an idea, however crazy it was, I would just write it down. A lot of these ideas went straight in the bin, but a few of them did stick. Now, knowing how many people that were going to come was the most difficult part. The weather was always going to be key, and although I don't like walking around my own farm in the rain, why should anyone else? So we planned for around 200 people, but we ended up with nearer 400 as it was a beautiful sunny day. And in hindsight, our car park was only just big enough. Another 100 people would have created some very interesting logistical challenges. We also did food, and that we had the same problem here, is that we didn't know how many people were going to come. So we over-budgeted to 400 people, which ended up being nearer correct. But we chose simple food like burgers and rolls, knowing that if worse came to the worst, we could freeze them and I could eat them for the rest of the year. Now, one of the things I really wanted to focus on was how much technology is involved in modern-day agriculture, but I wanted to make it relatable. So one of the activities we did to show this was how the GPS in our tractors differed from the GPS on the mobile phones in the people's pockets. By drawing simple circles on the floor of a grain store, we could show how the average phone is accurate to within 5 meters. Yet, the RTK GPS on our tractor was accurate to 2.5 centimeters. I did this by placing a 50p coin in the middle of the circles, and that is roughly 2.5 centimeters. People couldn't quite believe the level of accuracy that we were looking at. We coupled that with showing how we are mapping the soil to focus our nutrient inputs, and I explained how I would like to use the drones that we have to take this further by mapping our fields before we spread products like nitrogen. On the day itself, we had static machinery displayed. We had penned livestock, including sheep, which we include aging of sheep and explanation of how our flocks work. We had calves from our neighbouring dairy farm and piglets. We also had a game of guess how many balloons were in the tractor, with a prize for the nearest, which was a meal in a restaurant local to us. We're very lucky that Frontier provided 2 of their staff and a game that involved connecting end products to their raw materials. These were all related to the crops that we grew on the farm, and I have to admit there were some that surprised me. We had a self-guided nature trail around the farm with the leaf information board dotted about. We had a short and long route and allowed dogs. We put all of these things on and more, but the biggest success we had was the 50 tons of wheat we had left in the corner of a shed. We couldn't actually get the children out. Now, my top tips for when planning the event. Number 1 is ask for help. You can't do this on your own, so don't try. Now, you'd be surprised how many people are willing to offer you help and advice, and all you have to do is ask. The worst case scenario is that they say no. We asked neighbours, friends, local contractors, and also local companies to help out, and 99% of them were very willing to do so. Don't be afraid to dumb down explanations. I'm not saying that the public are thick, but what I am saying is what we see as our everyday lives is often a foreign language to many. Using agricultural jargon without explaining it will leave people baffled, and that's not what we're trying to achieve. What I found is actually the adults and parents learn as much, if not more, than the children. Make sure you have helpers who are enthusiastic and willing to engage. I found that people are very happy to walk around the farm with their heads down, not communicating, and it's nothing to do with them being rude. I find that they think it's just that they are shy. If you engage with them, they open up instantly and always want to know and always ask more. Be prepared to have more people than you expect. As I said earlier, we only expected 200 and had nearly double that. We tend to be quite pessimistic as farmers, and that is one of our biggest weak points. But when you have things like car parking and food and toilets and amenities to sort out, always overestimate. Give yourself plenty of time to get things organised. I started organising in the spring, yet still seem to have a manic rush on the Saturday before Open Farm Sunday. You can't have enough time, and I know that with a farm it's always busy, but you make sure you have enough time to plan.
Thank you, Alastair. What an inspiring and fabulous first Open Farm Sunday event. Next, we're heading up to Northumberland to Wheelbirks Farm, a 245-acre dairy farm with 100 acres of commercial timber. The farm is home to a 125-strong herd of pedigree Jersey cows and their own award-winning ice cream, which is produced on the farm and sold on site at the parlour, which was built in 2010. Wheelbirks have hosted Open Farm Sunday events since 2012, and here is one of the owners, Hugh Richardson, to tell us about their Open Farm Sunday event.
Originally, we thought about the idea many years ago, but there weren't any farms open and we didn't know anything more about it. So once we opened up our ice cream parlour in 2010, we felt that it was a good time to actually open the farm to the general public so they could see what we had to offer. Now, we've got Jersey cows on the farm, we've got 125 and have had since 1925. We've always dealt with the public in one way or another. I just felt there was a lot of misconceptions about what farmers were doing and what they were producing. So I think it was a combination of factors. The fact that we got the ice cream parlour, we were producing ice cream from the milk from our Jersey herd, it really led us down the road of saying, right, this year we're going to open up our farm to the wider public. And I think the first year we had 600 or 700 people through the doors. It was very much a long process for us to work out what was the best. What did the general public want to see? And because we've never done one of these events before, we maybe made the first one a little bit too complicated. So I think what we should have done in hindsight is made it simpler. So really the planning of this, it starts actually with the last event. And if you're doing the event for the first time, don't get worried. There's a lot of backup for you with Leaf and with all the promotions that's going on. So we really have a quick count up of how many people. I think we had 1,100 people through the doors last year. How did it go? What went well? What was poor? Obviously the weather has a big impact, but it's surprising how you still get customers there even if the weather isn't as good. And people get stuck in the field, so we pull them out with the tractor, and that's half the fun, I think, for half of them. They're doing something they're not used to doing. So really planning probably starts at the beginning of May, which is a route around the farm, and that's a route we concentrate on. So we really just clean a certain route through the farm buildings. The rest of the farm is normally reasonably tidy, and we're very lucky that we have a clean yard where the customers park and a dirty yard where we can move the tractors and trailers around. So it does take a little bit of organising. The more people you have, the better it is. And if you can get the wider farming community engaged with you to help you on your event, and they don't have to talk about your farm, you just have to talk about how food is produced and how customers can see what we're doing. So involve the National Farmers Union if you can. Get in other farmers from your local area to to tell a different story, because it's all about telling a story of what is produced, how we as British farmers produce it, and what it ends up in the supermarkets for the customers. The planning and organisation is really done between the owners, Tom and myself, and Lucinda, Tom's wife, who runs and manages the ice cream parlour. So she's probably the brains behind the organisation. Tom and I are very much hands-on outside. But the parlour's got to run with the farm on the Open Farm Sunday. So really it's a farm event, but the background is the ice cream parlour. Well, this is what we produce. So regular meetings throughout the year. I mean, we meet every month regardless, and topics come up like, okay, we've got Open Farm Sunday in June, and what do we need to do for that? Well, because we've now done it for 4 or 5 years, we really know what we've done. How did it go last year? What do we need to do? And it's very much staff orientated as well. So we try and educate the staff so that if there are questions raised by customers on the milk, the ice cream, on the dairy cows, then at least the customers can get that information from the staff. But also the staff are pointing customers who have maybe a trickier question in the right direction of Tom or myself or Chris or any of the other farmers who manage to get involved so that they can give a more detailed answer. So really it's a full team effort from the whole farm. We've got to make sure things are safe and clean for customers. There aren't any surprises for customers. And at the end of the day, we do always have, or generally seem to have, cows calving at the time that we've got Open Farm Sunday, which makes it so much more interesting for the general public and also for the small children who love to see this sort of thing.
That's fantastic, Hugh. Thank you so much indeed for your presentation. There are some strong themes and key messages coming from these. So now we're going to be heading down south to Jo North. Jo's hosted several Open Farm Sunday events at her family dairy farm in West Sussex since 2006 and is now our Open Farm Sunday coordinator in the South East. So Jo, can you please pull together some of these key points?
Thank you, Annabelle, and thank you, Ali and Hugh. So just to round up what we've heard, one of the first things to consider is to decide how many visitors you feel comfortable with and to plan your event round this. You need to develop a plan for an event that suits you, your farm, and the resources that are available to you. You want to think about what the story is that you're going to share with your visitors, simple key messages and memories that you want your visitors to take home and talk about with their family and friends. And just as a side note, in future webinars we'll cover how to get your message across and some great activity ideas as well. You want to plan ahead, reviewing your plan regularly. It really is amazing how quickly the event rushes ahead. Share your plan with your helpers. They may have some bright ideas to contribute, and that brings me on to my next point, which is have a wet weather plan and contingency plans if you have more visitors than you anticipate, as Ali touched on, if the car park fills out, etc., etc. Collaboration and booking your helpers early. It really helps to share the workload, both in planning the event and also on the day. So get your staff, your agronomists, your vets, your neighbours, your friends, your family, young farmers. Book them early, contact them occasionally to make sure they're still available, get them involved with the planning, and make sure they're there to help you on the day. And look after your helpers. Make sure you have a really good briefing event for them, especially around health and safety issues and planning around that. Prepare as much as you can in advance. There's always a mad rush the Saturday before Open Farm Sunday, but things that you can do in advance, like the signage, which is so important so that people can find you and get about your farm and find a toilet as well. And Leaf has produced an excellent Open Farm Sunday checklist, which will help you to keep on track with the preparations, and that's available to download on the website on the Steps to Opening page. So just to round up the real essentials, if you haven't already, make sure you've registered your event, and that's at farmsunday.org. You must inform your insurance company that you're hosting an Open Farm Sunday event, and they shouldn't charge you a premium, but you do have to tell them and also make sure you've got £5 million public liability insurance. In particular for large events, if you're planning to have music, sell alcohol or have a farmer's market, do contact your local council, check what licences you may need. These can take a couple of weeks to come through, so it's one of those jobs that can be done well in advance, and once it's done, you don't need to think about it. Make sure you've got all the necessary health and safety requirements in place. So especially around livestock, making sure you've got adequate hand washing facilities, and also if you're selling food, make sure that you're complying with all local council guidelines around that. And complete a risk assessment before your event. Leaf provides one in the host farmer handbook and on the website. It's excellent. It's one we use every time we do an event. And there is a webinar, and it's on the 4th of April, and that will focus on health and safety. So that will be a really handy one to have. I think that's all from me.
That's super. Thank you very much indeed, Jo. Great. So now we've come to the end of the presentations, and we're just about to go through and answer some questions. So the first question that's come in is about the hire of toilets. And how many toilets have you had at your events for your number of people? And I'm actually going to ask Alastair that first of all.
Yeah, so we budgeted on just one toilet and one set of hand washing equipment, which we hired from our local, well, Brandon Tool Hire, but there's many others around. They were very quick and easy to get a portaloo in. We made sure that it was disabled friendly as well, so we had one loo to do everybody.
Fantastic. We're actually, just something to mention, and details will be in the host farmer handbook, but we are developing a contract with Anglia Farmers, and they have a contract with Travis Perkins, and you can actually hire cheap toilets, portaloos, things that you might need to develop your own or set up your own hand washing facilities, and other things that you might need for your event. So that's good. Jo, how many, you have about 100, 200 people at your Open Farm Sunday events. How many toilets do you reckon on?
We had, the last time is the first time we brought toilets in, and it was through the Leaf recommended supplier, and we actually had 2 toilets, I think, so I sort of I like to have clean toilets, so we had 200 people, and we had 2 toilets, and that worked really well, but it was probably a little bit overkill.
Okay, and Hugh, over 1,000 visitors, how do you cope with the essentials like toilets and hand washing?
With the restaurant and cafe area, we've got a full set of toilets anyway. What we try to do is stagger events over the day so that there is a good mixture of events throughout the day, so people aren't just coming for a certain time. So if you can stagger customers coming into the farm, then I think it does make a lot of difference.
Great. And we've got a comment that's come in from Rowan over in South Wales, and she's saying that we use a minimum of 3 toilets, including 1 accessible for disabled people, and hand washing is a temporary cold water system set up using piping and a trough. And all those sorts of things are the things that people will be able to buy from the Anglia Farmers. And evidently they have around 450 visitors. That's really helpful. Thank you. And another question's come here in here on parking. How do you organise the parking? And when the weather's sunny and you get more people than you're anticipating, how do you manage with those extra cars? Hugh, you have so many visitors. How do you cope with the parking?
We have a retired farmer who actually counts people in and suggests where they should park. Fortunately, the field in front of the house is big enough, but we do coordinate off so that they can actually go wherever they want in that field. Obviously, the problems come on a wet weekend when you've got to actually pull people out, but that's half the fun for a lot of them.
That's great. And Alastair, what was your fallback position if your car park had filled up? Did you have a plan?
Yeah, we did have a contingency plan. We were going to we had a yard which was about 500-600 meters away. Worst came to the worst, we were going to get in a local game cart, but it just raised another health and safety problem. So we were just going to make people walk, but fortunately we didn't have that problem.
Okay, and promotion. Another question's come in on this. What's the best way to promote my event? And Alastair, I know that you had you used some local networks at your event, so.
Yeah, we used a few different media outlets. A few of them have used and abused me in the past, so they owed me a favour or two. So they were very helpful in helping me promote in local papers. But what I also found is, I'm a huge advocate of social media. A Facebook group, a Facebook event was set up, and then I shared the Facebook event in the local it's the Ross on Wye notice board they call it, which has 5,000 or 6,000 members. And actually a lot of our uptake then was one person seeing it and a lot of families coming together after that.
Marvellous. And Hugh, what do you do for promoting your Open Farm Sunday event in Northumberland?
Well, social media is a huge thing now, and it doesn't cost a great deal, but we do try and get the local press and television companies and stations involved as well. And most of them are happy to put out an advert or something like that, just to let the customers know. So social media, plenty of advertising. We've got a banner on the end of the road that goes up some 2 months before the event. So obviously try and get as much advertising done as possible, as early as possible, I think is a key thing.
And there will be a webinar focusing on promotion later on this year, but you've just raised the point there about how it's so important that you have to try and decide how many visitors that you want to aim to have, and then use the right communications channels accordingly. You wouldn't try and get advertising on local television or the radio if you were planning to host a smaller event. Now, Joe, you're down in the south, so you organise a small event, but you're actually surrounded by quite a few people, huge populations down there. So what do you do to promote your event and to make sure that you control the numbers of people?
We have a general rule: we don't pay for anything. So a bit like Alastair, we call in favours in terms of advertising and telling people about the event. But I'm quite specific about who I would like to come to the event. So, for example, our local schools and the villages that are immediately around us, we kind of using leaflets, book bags, going into the schools. We try and target them because they're actually the people we really want to encourage to come out to the farm. They're the people that are impacted by what we do. They're the people we want to share our message with directly. So we don't spend any money on advertising. We have the banner, and I also use social media as well, but much more limited because obviously we do want a smaller event and we don't want lots and lots of people. So it's kind of thinking about who we want to come and trying to target those people directly.
Great. Well, thank you very much indeed. I think we're going to draw an end to the webinar there. So lastly, just to say a huge thank you to our presenters today, to Ali Hunter-Blair, Hugh Richardson, and of course Joe North. And thank you to everyone who's joined us today for the webinar. If you have any unanswered questions, then please do email into openfarmsunday@leafuk.org, and we will respond to them as quickly as we can. Our next webinar will take place at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, the 31st of January, and it will focus on support and top tips for first-time host farmers. So all that remains for me to say is thank you very much indeed for joining this webinar, and goodbye from me here at Leaf Head Office. Thank you.